Yeah, I mean, because the best stuff is kind of like when you start to go, all right, everybody, we're hitting record.
Let's get serious.
That kind
it's like it flips a switch in your brain,
Yeah.
and suddenly, like, everything you do is like mid-grade from then on. I mean, mostly. And then you make an effort, and you might get, like, I would say the best, let's say like the A+ occurs before people know they're being recorded, and then like as soon as they know you're pushing record, it comes out like C+.
Yeah.
And then they work their way towards a B+.
Yeah, right.
And then maybe at the peak of the session they get an A-.
Yeah, right. But while they were warming up, it was A+.
It was A+.
Because it was a pure moment.
It was a pure moment, and it was, I think there is something to say for when, before you bring certain part of your consciousness into the equation, there's a certain moment before that where all your years of practice kind of come into play just automatically, and you're in a flow state.
Yeah.
You're in the effortless flow state before you get serious and before you try to kind of objectify it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that before I came here about, I was thinking about what I was going to say a little bit,
yeah. Don't do
anyway,
that.
I know.
I can already tell we're gonna run out of time because like I think we're on the same wavelength with that for sure.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten really into drumming in the last couple of years, and that's really changed my like just not thinking about music, but just having it be like all feel,
your body,
and I'll just tone. Like comedy's kind of helped me with that, like just making sounds.
Yeah.
Like I'm more and more interested in first takes, secret recordings, shit like that, where you just capture. Like when I watch a movie now, I'm like, these people didn't write the words. There's like all these fake lighting things going on. Like to me, this is so much more interesting. Like this is like we're jamming right now with words. It's like we don't know what's going to come next. There's no wrong things you can say.
There are some wrong things we can say. No, for sure.
I don't know. It hasn't. I've said wrong things, and I'm still here.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
No, I've done. There are some wrong things.
There are some wrong things that can't. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so. And if they do, and then the thing is, sometimes you don't know when is the right time to say a wrong thing.
Yeah, I know.
Because there's times where you're being really careful, not saying the wrong thing, and then somebody walks by and does the wrong thing, and they get like rewarded for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a hard edge to ride, at least from an outsider's view, like in comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
crossing
wrong is
the line.
subjective, though. Wrong is like, we don't agree on what's wrong for that.
Yeah, for sure.
For one thing. So then it's like you're looking at it in a room and it's like 20 of them are mad. 20 of them are not paying attention.
Yeah.
Some people are laughing, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then in music, it's definitely like in terms of like playing the wrong note, it's not so much that there's any wrong notes. It's like, how long do you play it and what do you play next really quick? Like what does it resolve to?
Yeah.
Cause then that's just jazz or whatever, or that's just fixing, like, that's just like Jerry Garcia or whatever.
Yeah. Play a wrong note, just play it again. Play it 2 more times.
Yeah.
And then it sounds
that
awesome.
Too.
I had Seth Kaufman on recently, and we were talking about that, how like early on in recording music, people are like, oh, that sounds bad, let's redo that. But you learn that like the mistakes are often the things that sound the best listening back.
I saw that.
So when you're recording something and you're like, this seems wrong, it's like, let's give it a couple days.
I do that.
Because those little like human flaws, I think, are what make, even if you say something wrong on this, like that might be kind of like,
that's true,
the coolest part. And if it's like, I've said things on here that I felt like I sounded like the wrong kind of bro, and that's like, that makes me be better. So it's like, I'm all right with making mistakes.
Yeah.
Just capturing all of it.
Yeah, that's true.
The flow state.
Yeah. I've been in recording sessions before where I've really wanted to keep stuff like that. Or I've said, rather than going back and fixing the thing that seemed like a mess up in the initial performance, and this seems sloppy and lazy, and it kind of is, but like, it's like, can we just add something on top of that to disguise it and just see if it works? Because what if we mask it with something else, and then we don't have to go back and kind of like kill the magic of the whole thing that was there before.
Complement the mistake and make that into some new thing that you didn't intend.
Because let's add like a crash right there, or like a
I love it. But a lot of people that work the tech for you go, no. And it's like, fuck those people being the gatekeepers. That's why you got to figure out how to do your own shit.
That's why I'm learning how to run, to do Ableton.
For years, I was bullied by those people because they just knew more. They're like, you don't know what kind of converters your shit uses.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm interested in making a piece of art that says a feeling. Like, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. The mistakes are absolutely the best part.
Yeah.
I think that's like, the older I get, the more I'm learning to like accept that. Like, you almost want to have mistakes and flaws because everything on the radio is perfect sounding now.
Yeah.
So make a mistake, add, and then compliment, because it's almost like you're limited by what you can imagine in advance. If everything goes according to your plans, it's really limited, because I can only think of a few things. But when accidents happen, when you spill some chemicals, you might invent some new potion.
Oh, totally. Like I've always thought of it like, if you don't allow for mistakes, then you're only going to get where you intended to go.
Right.
And you're not going to, but aren't the best journeys like you end up going somewhere that you never intended? You couldn't have imagined
the majority of them are.
You couldn't have imagined something like, and so there's got to be some room for that. See that kind of ties into the whole idea of just being like hyper logical.
Yeah.
And not allowing there to be any kind of like, it could be some looseness.
Yeah.
And like, because we don't really operate that logically, like in every area of our lives, if we admit it.
Yeah.
There's lots of areas where we operate pragmatically.
Yeah.
But not really logically.
Yeah.
But then there are areas where we operate logically, or we might be operating on some flawed logic, but it just works.
We're still just animals, like following our feelings and are making mistakes.
Yeah, we're just doing what works, like every day.
And I think the best performances and the best art is that. Like I remember, I read a book about Neil Young, and he was like, at some point he decided every time we play, we're going to record it, because this shit where you're like, now we're recording, and like you said, the C- up to A-, like you just record everything all the time, and then you just get comfortable living in that.
Yeah.
And then you have like those weird like little things that you could never plan for.
Yeah. So to me, those are like artifacts rather than being like this intentionally. Because can you imagine like intentionally creating an artifact, like making something, making it sound old or making it this or that. But then there's some times where you just, something happens and it happens to be captured, and that's like a real artifact of like life happening.
Yeah.
So I like that word artifact. Like that's artifact. Why a lot of things I make, I'll like have an initial idea, I record it on my phone or in some situation as things were happening. It's like someone broke out their little recorder and then we'll make a little demo, and then they'll be like, oh, we got to re-record that. And I'm like, no, we are not re-record. I mean, maybe in some cases, sure, but there's times where it's like, if we captured a vibe, then we're not going to kill that vibe.
We're already done, and it's great. Like why I started, like all the music for this podcast is like a weird project called Fuzz Force, where it's like it's all recordings I've done on my phone first. So I'm like sitting there playing guitar, and everybody's running around, and then I throw that phone recording in here and I play drums along with it, and like adds sense. And it's like very much like everything's the first take, and then you just chop it up and take any like 1 minute fragment where it locks in. A lot of it's like shitty, but you just listen to all of it, and then you boop, 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 and then you can like even copy and loop that if you want to build a song. So you can actually build a structured, perfect sounding song out of just mistakes and spontaneous stuff.
That's how I've been making music for the past like few years. Is like I have all these different things where like, somebody invited me over for an afternoon and we recorded for a few hours, and then like that was just a thing that never came out or never got pushed to the next level. But it's something, and then I'll take that and I'll mix it with some other lyrics, and I'll take a part of that and I'll resample that, and like, so to me it's like collage art, and it's like and then like you're saying, like
that's like the word I use. That's funny. Collage.
At a certain point, like it's like, okay, yes, I do like all of this, but there's this one moment where it clicks in for these like 30 seconds. And like, man, I'm just going to use that. That's what I'm going to put out.
And it can be just that, or it can be like throw it into a new session and then build off that. And the root of it is still like a spontaneous accident or just a vibe that's
exactly. That's how I've been making music.
You should come over and jam in my shed sometime. I live nearby. I have a drum set up, and there's like a PA and guitars and stuff, because that's just like letting it roll. I really like the way you play guitar. I was like revisiting some of your stuff this week. You have like How did you get into like, I like your like jazz voicings or, how'd you?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I would call it like fake jazz because it's like, I know the shapes that I like and the shapes that make that like feel.
The voicings.
It's not, I don't know what the chord is called. You know what I mean? I don't know. Usually I don't know what the notes are. I'm sure if I sat there for half an hour, I could figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I guess at a certain point when I was learning guitar, I just skipped over like formally learning much and just went straight to like just listening to recordings of musicians I liked and then like just figuring it out by ear. And usually what I would find is that I would, because I didn't mess with like alternate tunings, I would usually be doing it the hardest way.
Yeah.
Because I'd be like stretching my hand to like cover certain things that you could just put a capo or like tune it.
Right.
But I just did it that way, and so then I got enough confidence to basically make me be able to get to the point where I was making music I liked without going through the formal channel of like learning
scales
and stuff, which are important and great. I learned
they can be important,
and I did learn like certain, but I did get lessons, but I never used that approach. I never used that. I was like, I'm going to make a song in the key of A. Well, then it's got to, have this chord. I never did that. I literally was just like, let me just like kind of like collage art. Let me just like put this shape, and then what if I follow this shape with this shape? Oh, what if I do this shape all the way up the neck, and then find this spot right here sounds cool. What kind of like that.
So much better because you're inventing your own system for your whole journey. Whereas like if some teacher's like, here's this and this, you might start with somebody else's.
Yeah, I may be like playing 12-bar blues the rest of my life.
Yeah, and we got plenty of those guys.
Plenty of those guys that do it way better than me.
Yeah,
but but like and. Now I'm at the point where I know a lot better guitar players than me. Like if you know what I mean. So if I ever need a guitar player, I don't know. I feel like it's never gonna happen for me. Like I'm never gonna learn music in that way. Like I'll keep on
like
learning
in a formal way.
Yeah. I will learn a little bit because I am teaching. I do teach kids like how to play like in a rock band. So I do have to I do know more than I think I do. First of all, I know more than I think I do. But in terms of like applying it, and I guess I just continue to improvise and like learn kind of in reverse a little bit of like I only have to know as much theory as my 11-year-old kid that I'm trying to teach guitar needs to know, who like is just beginning.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty common though. I think a lot of the best do a lot of deep dives into interviews, and like the Beatles, like John Lennon, like Nirvana, so like they never learned all the names of the, this is C#7 minor or whatever. Yeah. So I think that I don't think you even have to like necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I will continue learning because I do learn as I go. I do continue learning as I go. But the best part, I feel like, for me is I just get to be a part of music. I get to be a part of music, period. Whether I came through it through formal channel of learning and being like trained, traditionally or whatever, or just coming in it the way that I've done, either way, it's still like an honor to be a part of it. And I think like you can get to the same place either way. I just came to it this way.
When you say be a part of it, I like that. Do you mean like just like in a musical community?
Yeah. Or, like at least in Asheville, in this musical community, like I feel like as a singer, I feel like my brain is really, my brain's like evolved or whatever to like go into situations the way that a jazz musician would. Somebody might be, so I'm not that confident. Like I couldn't do that on guitar or keys or anything. I could do it maybe on like percussion, but like vocals, I could go into like a kind of more high pressured situation and like come out pretty good,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like I think you could probably do that with guitar to some degree too, from what I've seen, but I really like that. I think you have a pretty like a nice tone, like you have a kind of a softer, I don't know, soft's not it's hard to put words on that stuff, but like
no, yeah.
Do you have like particular influences when you think of like your tone or your sound? Like what does that mean to you?
I would say one of my one of the artists that like made me lean into my tone was Ben Harper. Like when Ben Harper came out, I was doing lots of different things, but like when he came out, I was like, oh, you can be like really quiet. You
Chill.
can like you can get really close to the mic, and like Ben Harper, I think Nick Drake, I really felt that same way. And then
it's almost like the guys that make you lean in because they're kind of not yelling at you. They're just kind of understated.
They're drawing you in, you know, it's like inside of you already kind of feeling. So those guys, and then like later on, maybe like Sade, and also like Bono from U2, like the way that he sounds kind of like sometimes, especially like in the 80s, he would sound kind of like a woman, you know, like his voice sounds very feminine.
Yeah, he can hit those high falsetto notes.
Yeah, and not just the high falsettos, but like also just the like even his lower notes, like or his mid notes. Like he would sing them in a way that just sounded feminine. And so, and I read some interview or some article that was saying it was like that his mom passed away earlier in his life, and like that maybe his singing was like a way of like almost like channeling his mom through his singing, you know,
like the maternal voice that wasn't there in your life.
Voice that wasn't there, and he was like being that for everyone else.
You can, that's cool.
And so I feel like a lot of times I want my singing and my music to be comforting, to be like this, you know,
more maternal instead of like guys, like blah blah, like G.I. Joe guns.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do rap sometimes, and that definitely brings out the masculine. But I even like. And when I rap, I even like, you know, leaning into like more of like a chill, like Q-Tip or Slick Rick. You know, they have more of like a less, well, I guess more of a
less aggro, like
less more, aggressive.
I'm kind of a sucker for some of the emo rap. It's like a guilty pleasure for me. Yeah, like I just enjoy them.
Would you
like
say
Post Malone, like Shameless stuff like that, where it's like, you know, I haven't gone that deep with rap, but
do you like Drake?
Yeah. Like I like it too, and it's not quite as aggro.
Yeah,
but you know, I like I like NWA too. You know.
Yeah.
But
I like a lot of the like New York like 5%er rap, like in terms of aggro. It's not really that aggro. It's like usually like piano based, jazz loops melodies and stuff.
Yeah.
But then they just sound. I don't know. Just. There was like this thing that came out called was it a song called Change by Shades of Brooklyn. Like you should check that out sometimes maybe. But that's like I would not consider that aggro, but it still feels edgy and very like, and some of the stuff they talk about is like, ooh, that's not nice.
Yeah. But you want some of that too, right?
Yeah,
because that's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my music that I'm making now, like what I was practicing earlier today, I was doing both. I was doing like singing and rapping, and then and kind of going back and forth. And there's like, you know, leaning to one side or leaning to the other.
Yeah, they complement
but
each
there
other.
Still is a balance in the middle that is a little bit more, in a sense, I would say, I guess feminine, or I guess kind of more chill.
Yeah, like I mean, when I say masculine and feminine, I don't even mean like genders necessarily. It's like, but I think the best music is like androgynous to me. It's like David Bowie or something like that. Like I always like the like rock bands like the Pixies, that they had like at least one lady in the band. So even though it's like electric guitars and dudes yelling, you can feel that sense of balance.
Yeah.
So it's not just like cock rock or whatever. It's just like so much testosterone where it's just like kind of off-putting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that
I'd rather have it be more feminine, I think, than more aggro.
Yeah. I mean, and to a point, there's such a thing as being too smooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that because I've pushed the limits of being too smooth.
You've gone to somebody pull you aside like, Juan, it's really, you need to get like yell a little bit more.
No,
you need to scare us a little bit more than.
No, but there are times where, you know, the situation calls for some, you know, it's like yin and yang. There's some times where the situation's been like, all right, that's enough yin. Like, you know, it's time for some yang, or I don't know. It's like,
I mean, I think it's like outlines in a drawing. It's like they define each other. So if it's just all smooth, it's like not smooth anymore. You almost you need it to be next to something that's not smooth, or to change into it so that smooth exists.
Yes, ebb and flow is important. And if it's all flow, then it loses. And if it's all ebb, then it kind of loses. Yeah. So, dang, there was some. Oh yeah. So So you like Drake? Do you?
I don't know enough to say anything though.
Okay,
I'm like vaguely aware. Like this is already, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna say.
Did you follow the beef though?
No,
not at all.
Yeah,
I follow it as super.
What are you want to share some thoughts?
Yeah,
on
sure.
The beef?
I mean, okay. Obviously, I think that Kendrick Lamar won the beef, of course, and it's a really like. It seems like a really big cultural moment because I've been like, it's just something I never thought I would see in my lifetime, I guess.
What was it about it?
Just about how just to see Drake like just
lose?
Like yeah.
Okay.
Just go down in flames, kind of like I guess we did see it with the previous beef he had with Pusha T, but it was just more like a nick in his armor. It wasn't like, oh, Drake's done for.
Don't you want to see people get like, to me, when I see somebody, and that's a big part of comedy, is like we see all of each other bomb. And like I like it somebody more when I see them fail publicly.
Bomb and then come back.
Yeah, it'd be born again. Yeah, so it's like, it's almost like, I don't know, this is another weird, I don't know a lot about pop culture, but remember like when Beck was getting the award?
Yeah.
And Kanye basically bullied and humiliated him in front of the world. I was like, yes, like every year it's like everyone's like, yay, Beck, you could do no wrong. I mean, it was kind of nice to see him get like humiliated. Like I was like, that made me like Beck more. It made me like the whole thing. I don't even
feel like he was humiliated. I mean, I feel like Beck was. I remember Beck said, "No, don't leave. I need you."
Yeah, I feel like he was like,
as Kanye was going off, he was like, "No, I need you." He was like, he I think he interpreted the situation correctly. Like. I mean, it was, and Kanye was like, I don't even know your music. Like, that was so, that's so Kanye, I guess. But
I feel like Beck didn't look as cool as he always looks every time we see him. And that made me like him more.
Yeah.
That it was like a human. He looked kind of scared and like frazzled.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's how I feel a lot of the time. That's cool. We don't need to be like, if you're in the public eye and you're always winning, it's like, that's even less relatable to me, you know? I like the flaws. I like the...
Yeah. And I think that's why, I think that's kind of, that seems to be like, maybe like part of the logic of Kanye is just to be contrarian.
Yeah.
And to...
Oh, yeah.
Just to... And to be like... Just to be wrong, like all the time. Be like, how can you say I can't touch the like hot iron. Like, all right, I'm gonna touch the hot iron.
That's how you manipulate the media into always being on you. It's like this great trick, you know.
But it's kind of done. It's kind of done though. But but I think it just ran its course like to ridiculous.
And I'm not even saying I approve of like anything that Kanye does or says, but. When you're talking about kind of more delicate rap and the emo stuff, I remember like heard him say, I guess it's like almost 20 years old now or something like that. But to me, he was one of the people, with my limited rap exposure, one of the people that I was like, whoa, there's like piano melodies and I'm getting the chills and this is like smooth. And at that time I hadn't heard that much rap that was like vulnerable and had more of like a feminine energy to it.
Yeah.
We're hopping this is a lot of these topics are just embrace that it's one long tangent. Yeah. Sometimes things come back. Sometimes it's just like, it's a jam, you know?
Yeah. But in terms of like, like Drake versus Kendrick, there is this moment where like, well, the thing is that like Drake, what's come out more recently is all these reference tracks of songs where you can listen to the original song and then you can listen to Drake, and it's not even technically a reference track. It's just somebody else's song that Drake found, and he like copies like almost entirely like whole like 20-second sections of like
is it like a joke stealing song. Video where they play like
like joke stealing.
They're like, here's another one that coincidentally they had something pretty fucking similar.
Yeah. It's like, and there's multiple cases.
Okay.
And then we already know that Drake has writers for him. So then we already know that when he sings, it's like slightly auto-tuned and probably they go and correct a lot of notes with like Melodyne.
You find out he's like a bot.
So it's kind of like at a certain point, it's like, what does he do after this point? And so
he runs a very successful business.
Yes, he runs a very successful business. He's a successful actor from Canada who runs a very successful rap business.
And it's like,
and that's fine. That's fine. But then the other side is that his whole brand is like that he's into underage girls, and the underage girls are into him. Yeah. So Kendrick's basically just calling him out on all these cases because it's like he's just ripe for the picking at this moment. Mm-hmm. And the thing is it's not necessarily even about Drake. It's more just about like what we were talking about before, like just like when something is too smooth and too curated and too perfect and just always winning, it's like it's boring. Yeah. And eventually somebody has to come along and just like smash it like a piñata.
Yeah, because it's not real.
It's kind of like how Nirvana came in and like took out all the hair bands.
Right.
Yeah. Like everything was like every hair was in place with like gel and like curated perfectly, and like they always look, and they're always the winners, and they're always like the, you know. And then this guy comes in who's like got low self confidence and just like smashes guitar chords out and like makes a lot of like, and that was like, whoa, we all were like super drawn to that. So to me, this is like somewhat of a similar, at least within rap.
It's almost like a cultural like shattering of like the old ways, like, you know, people are like revolutions don't happen, but in this sense, it's like we're kind of shattering the heroes of before.
Exactly. And I like Drake's music. You know, I think you can make good music by committee, and I think that, you know, I have made music kind of in the way Drake's making music, where it's like my friends have this song that they're not gonna put out. I'm like an instrumental, and I'm like, can I like have this? And I'll finish it. I'll put my verses on it. I'll credit you guys. This is a collaboration, but or I had a friend put out a song, but it's like it's on Bandcamp, and like, you know, like 5 people have heard it, and I'm like, well,
that's how music is now. Five is a lot.
Yeah, no, 5 is a lot. No, I was like, well, I could get like 15 to hear this song if like, you
just
know.
The idea of like owning it too and stuff is like, that's becoming something I'm even starting to let go of. I mean, obviously it's wrong to like steal shit from people, but it's like there's so much content uploaded every goddamn hour that it's just like the idea of being like, this is mine, and it's just like that's why this format is great for me, because it's just raw, it's just up, it's just a moment. You know, there's not like some song that could be stolen or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how much we even like own the ideas that are like flying around, you know? Like there's so many ideas flying around between all our devices and the internet now.
Are you like, do you have like any like spiritual inclinations? Like, do you think there's any kind of logic to the way that ideas kind of land on a person? Because I've felt like sometimes there's times where like I'll have an idea and it feels like the idea is trying to come through me. And if I
believe that's real.
If I don't act on that, then eventually the idea is going to go find another person to go through. And I do believe that sometimes things just happen the same thing will occur to different people in different places.
there's like a shared, there's things we can prove with science that are like facts, but then there's also things that can't be proven yet or maybe ever that are true. And I think just being in, like, one of the things I love is I do comedy 3 nights a week, and just physically going into that room with all those different brains, it changes me, you know? And like, even after this conversation, the next time I play music, I'll be a little bit different because these thoughts will be in there. So I kind of think there's this level where it's like, we're sharing ideas. Yeah. Like virtual is not the same. Like even if you're in a room with 10 people and nobody says anything, you're still kind of connected on something. You're like locking in.
Yeah. So you're like breathing together.
Yeah. Like so that's kind of how I relate to it. Like the ideas are out there. Like there's studies where they've said, you know, I mean, I think, who knows if this is true, but I've heard this idea that sounds true, that, you know, there's a civilization thousands of years ago that discovered something, and then around the exact same time, people somewhere else discovered it, and they had no way of communicating. But the ideas, like you said, were just
had its time.
Ready to come through. Yeah, have its time. Yeah. So, you know, part of like why I love comedy and music is because it's like the closest you can kind of get to capturing that stuff or chasing it. And you can maybe get a recording of some magical thing like that, because they are kind of fleeting and intangible. Yeah. Those sort of things. But yeah, I mean, that's like my favorite thing.
And like also the idea of like when things change when they're observed, you know, like that is like a scientifically proven fact, right? Like I don't know,
so
but it's something about like, it's like if like I guess it gets down to even like on the molecular level. It's like some particle behaves a certain way, but then when it's observed, it then like changes its behavior.
Like the reality knows it's being watched.
Yeah, it knows it's being watched.
The fact that you're observing it, like it's all connected.
And then the question is, who's the observer?
Yeah.
That's like, it's like we know that works, but then we don't know, well, then what is the difference between like a robot watching something and a human being watching something?
Yeah, that's the new shit that we're like, it's like
is the molecule going to change when a robot's watching it? I don't know. Like that's something I haven't.
There's like a Black Mirror episode. Do you ever watch that show?
Yeah.
Where like
I stopped watching it a few years ago.
I can see why. But they clone somebody's like brain and they put you in a thing and you can have your own like little computer program that does your bidding, but it's actually you. And in order to like get it in line, you kind of have to torture it. And it brought up this question of like, is it wrong to treat a robot?
Yes, it is wrong.
I think so too, because it's like in your mind you're modeling it as a life form or whatever, and you're being abusive, and like that's gonna fuck up your karma.
If nothing else, you're teaching yourself to be abusive.
Right.
You're practicing abuse on a robot, and that whether or not the robot eventually, if the robot has any consciousness or of some sort or some building consciousness that eventually becomes like anything else, whether or not that happens, you're just practicing it, and you're probably more likely to then do that to another human being or like an animal or something.
Yeah. Do you think that like even just being mean can make like, you know, like the monks that sit and like try to, you know, be at peace and be present, that maybe me all the way over here, I pick up on a little of that. If there's just some people thinking a thing, it kind of affects all of us. Do you think that might be true?
I think it's true. I think it's true. I mean, I heard they did an experiment where they had a bunch of people meditate in like New York City, and like they measured the crime rate dropped as if it had snowed really hard.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a noticeable drop in crime during this time of like intense like mass meditation. I'll have to find that. That's so funny that like all these things that like we're talking about, like improv and recording, and I feel like as much as we feel like there's these facts out there, or these things that happen or that are researched and they're like documented, it's like I don't have faith that the documentation of things will always be there.
Right. Yeah.
There could be a time where that research is easily, like missing.
Just wiped.
It's just wiped for some reason.
A big magnet just comes along and it's like
on purpose or on accident.
Yeah.
Like that. So that like
saving books helps a little.
Like books,
let's
but then the books are gonna eventually be gone.
Rot, yeah,
and like all these pianos that are out on the internet for free, like there'll be a time like in 5 or 10 years where you'll go and be like, oh, there's always pianos, and you'll go look, you'll search piano, and there won't be any free pianos.
Right.
Like, can you imagine that? Be like, that moment's gonna happen before it'll happen. Like, we'll realize it happens after it's happened. And I feel like a lot of the things we take for so in that sense, it's like even the things that we think are like solid facts with research and all this stuff, it's like I do believe, especially as we get more into this point where people might be putting like wires in their brains and stuff, and like who, like that person that has like a Neuralink, like they could probably, whatever's put in there,
your brain could get hacked now.
Your brain could get hacked. I know it sounds so dumb. Like,
no,
dude.
It doesn't. It sounds true and horrifying.
No, but Neuralink sounds like a dumb idea.
Yeah, like signing up for it. Yeah, like, being like, that's that does sound dumb.
I will believe whatever you want me to, Elon Musk.
I know.
Like, what?
That's crazy.
Why? But yeah, like your reality can just be given to you eventually, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I like the idea of like artifacts, creating artifacts and valuing these like.
When you say artifact, you know, I really like how you're using that. Like, what is an artifact to you? Like, I almost think of like when I hear it as like it's something you dig up from like like a old site, like Indiana Jones or something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like out of the dirt, you like find a piece of a pottery, and it's like, whoa, okay, what? You know, you have to put the puzzle together.
So maybe maybe an artifact for you is like a non-virtual thing, like it's a thing that made of matter.
Not necessarily. Okay. I mean,
it could be like
music. CD. That's what I'm saying. Like with my music, is I want my music to be as close to, and in some cases I use a lot of like what I consider audio artifacts. Like, audio artifact is considered a blemish. Right, if you hear like they
like a little
like engineering, it's considered like there's some little thing that's not supposed to be there. It's an artifact,
like digital distortion.
It's evidence that like this was created and wasn't just perfect from the beginning.
Like a glitch in the Matrix when you see the cat twice.
Yeah,
like
it's evidence of the process.
Yeah,
that's an artifact. Okay, so we found it. Evidence of the process.
Right,
of some process. That's an artifact.
It's like a receipt of that it happened.
Yeah,
it's like now there was a jam session here. We got
this artifact of a jam session, which is like like a half smoking doobie.
They were here no more than an hour ago.
Yeah.
The bass strings are still warm.
Yeah.
They were slapped like in the last 30 to 40 minutes.
Oh, okay. Have you heard of this thing called quantum entanglement?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's this thing that my dad told me about it when I was little, but I saw an article recently that was like saying the same thing, and I was like, okay, that was true. Okay, that was like a true thing. That
is it? Let me guess. Said. Is it like something that like it's like time travel couldn't exist? It's like a paradox kind of thing that shows.
It probably is related to that, but like it's basically that like on one end of the galaxy or universe, or on one side of a universe, a line in the middle of the universe, whatever. On one side, there's like a particle that's like whatever happens to it affects a particle on like the other side of the universe, and they're connected in a way that's faster than the speed of light.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are things that are faster than the speed of light. Yeah. It's a quantum entanglement.
Right. That's all we know about is we can transmit at the speed of light, and it's like there's some law of the universe by Einstein that you can't go faster than that, but then there's evidence that things can, like there's a wormhole or some kind of
quantum entanglement. The connection between the two is like one thing affects the other, and it happens instantaneously. And it could be something where you might not, if you live on the one side of the universe as opposed to the other, you might not know that particle on the other side is affecting your locality.
Right. And then it's also like who's affecting who. If you keep zooming out, it's just one. Like I kind of think humans. I mean, everything really, but especially humans. We're kind of like one organism. Like almost like when you tear it open some ground and you see like
a bunch of ants.
Yeah, and it's like the ants are not. Each ant's like a toenail or whatever, and the organism is the whole structure. And we, on some level that we can't perceive or we can't see, we are just all connected. Yeah. So everything that I do affects everybody else a little bit, or vice versa. Or in order to just have language and thoughts and walk around in a car and renew your license plate, is you kind of have to like draw up these lines between things and put words on things, and it allows us to have conversations, but it's all a bunch of bullshit. It's like a fake layer.
Like it is and it isn't. Like it is and it isn't.
It's useful to us, but like the quantum entanglement level is really what's really happening, but we're not really that smart. I mean, we can we just only see little shadows of it. You know?
And that's why I trust the kind of like the moments before we like fully rationalize things out, because there is a degree of that is like our true nature.
Warming up for the jam before you hit record.
For the jam before you hit record. It's like, and
it's not self-conscious. It's just like tumbling out.
That's when you're part of the whole of like everything, and that's why I feel like music and art, but music is so powerful, and I think that's part of why we like music is because it connects us to the thing that is beyond our own logic, maybe adheres to a bigger logic that we're like unaware of because we're down in the weeds.
Yeah. Comedy too. It's like a bunch of people in a room, brains on the same joke, and a laugh happens at the same time. Yeah. Like it's like that same magic, that thing that cannot really be named, but it feels good to go have a shared experience for music or comedy because it's like we're in it. You know?
I think that's what God is. I think that's what like God's is for real, not like what we make God into. Yeah. But I think that's kind of like how, like you see, like like in music, like you start off inspired, like just playing music, maybe in your bedroom by yourself, and you really feel that vibe, and then like eventually, let's say that turned into like a music career, and you just become this like raging asshole. Mm-hmm. It's like a successful music career.
I'm glad it never happened to me.
Yeah, it never happened to me. Woof! Dodged a bullet, man. Jeez. But like, you know, it's like that. You can see that same pattern happen in religion, like where there's this desire to express the unexpressible. Mm-hmm. And then eventually someone creates like a really good poem, and that becomes like a book that like thousands of years later people are killing each other over. Yeah. But you know,
and the poet's like, guys, that wasn't
what I was trying to do. Like,
yeah.
And but then like maybe somebody took that book and then like, you're like, oh, we need to add a couple more poems on here. Let's make some poems about how war is cool, and like,
let's take out those
retranslate it. Yeah, take out that
so
word.
We can torture these people.
Yeah, just like if you drop this one word, we can do a lot more.
We can make so much more money. It's one word.
So much more money, and like take over so many more like
a bunch
kingdoms.
Of like drunken Catholic monks are like, yeah, we can do that. We can make that
we got that.
We're the only 8 people that can read. Who else is
exactly. That's exactly.
These motherfuckers can't even read.
They can't even read, dude. We need to keep them illiterate. Don't read it. Just we'll tell you what it says. Yeah.
So I was trying to do a bit on dividing by zero. You know how you're allowed to divide by zero in math.
You can't divide by zero.
Yeah, it's like and like there's this YouTube videos where like there's old calculators, like manual ones, where if you try to type that into the calculator, it just goes like clack, 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 clack. It like breaks it in some way. But I don't know if you're like a math guy or not, but you divide by like smaller and smaller numbers, you get a bigger and bigger answer, So as you get closer and closer to zero, you could almost say like when you divide by zero, it becomes like infinity or something.
Zero is infinite.
But it's not allowed.
Yeah, zero and infinity are like the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the being too soft, but you got to have something be hard, like aggressive next to it, or they don't define each other. And like zero and infinity are kind of we have these rules.
You mean they don't define themselves?
Like kind of all the above. It's like everything and nothing. It's like as soon as we start trying to put words on it, and this is all this, like this is full of binary. Like, is it the yes or no, zeros or ones? And we kind of built this world where we can't divide by zero, but if you could, that would be the on the other side of that unsolvable equation is this unknowable
utopia.
Shit. Yeah, God, utopia, hell. I mean, just all of the polar opposites that we have to do.
So maybe like one day we'll create a computer that can divide by zero.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
we'd probably have to make a computer that's not binary.
Yeah.
Make a computer based on some other language.
It would have like kidneys and lungs and shit and stuff.
That's like I
don't know.
Yeah.
Not in a gross way, but
probably already is a computer that does that. Like we just don't know what it is. It's probably like a coffee machine, or like, you know what I mean? It's like the copier machine is already solved that we just don't know or something.
Yeah, it can't tell us because it's like the paradox.
We just don't recognize the answer.
Right, it's yelling at it right now, but we can't. But yeah, we've kind of built this world of logic, and I mean, as it's increasingly virtual, it's like everything's zeros and ones, and it's like, is it this or that? And I don't know,
and then quantum mechanics says it can be both, right?
Yeah, right. And I think what you were saying when we started about
quantum computing,
jamming before you hit record being the best, all this kind of one. I don't know. As soon as I try to get the words on it, it crumbles like a house of cards.
Yeah.
But I like trying.
We still have to try.
Just strive.
And the thing is sometimes you achieve a beautiful attempt, and that's what goes down on the record is this beautiful attempt.
Yeah.
To to capture it, and also just like I think it's important to, because of everything we're talking about, and like the paradox of like the harder you try, sometimes the worse it gets, but then if you don't try at all, it's like you're not even in the game. Like you got to put something in the game. You got to put something in the game to get something out.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to be like minimalist.
Same.
Yeah.
So like have a system where I can be a creative person and capture things, but it's always like the first take or quickly, being set up and ready to roll. Because it's like if I sit down and try to get a song perfect, it gets worse quick. And if I'm on the fourth take, I'm playing much worse. I just know. But I also have talked to some people on this podcast that'll sit down and get things perfect, and it actually will be like,
that's amazing.
Like I grew up with grunge, and it was like Smashing Pumpkins was like perfect 30 guitar, and Nirvana was like just like come in and throw up some mics and do it. And it's like, again, it's like both opposites are true.
Yeah.
I find for me, I've learned it's much better to have it be minimal, off the cuff, don't overthink it. But there are those weird people out there that I don't understand that can actually obsess and but I think Billy Corgan's a huge controlling asshole.
Exactly. There's a cost for that. There's a cost for that.
And the cost is too high because I want to
cost is too high.
Friends
because you're like a family. Do you have like
I got kids.
Yeah,
so you can't be Billy Corgan.
Like this isn't the area where we perform the highest.
Yeah.
The area where we perform the highest is like with our kids, our family. Like that's where we have to be like
on a good day.
Right. But I mean, for me, like that's where I feel like I have to be on it the most. And then the
stakes are high if you screw up,
Yeah, stakes are high. And if making a podcast with you messes up my family life, then I'm not making a podcast.
We can't have that. Yeah.
Fortunately,
this is going to help.
This is going to help. Yeah.
Because it's built with that.
But like
mind.
everything has to be like, I have to be able to get like an 80% result with 20% effort out of like all my things that aren't involved in the core.
But I think that challenge can make your shit even better.
And then it makes me show up. Because I'm just like, you know what? I do that with rock. Like right now, I've been rock climbing a little bit and like just actually climbing in the gym, not like climbing actual rocks. But like, I'm just gonna go rock. I'm not gonna go climb for like hours. I'm gonna go climb for 20 minutes. and then let it go again, and then come back when I'm fresh and climb for 20 minutes again, and then let it go, and like bursts. That's the way of doing bursts. Exactly. That's
like
how
get yourself right to the. I think that's a much better way. I think I've found that like if I want to get good at something, if I do like 5 minutes a day for a year, that's way more than doing like an hour a week or so, trying to do too much in one session. Because I think after you climb and then you go forget about climbing, your mind and your body are still working on it. You know what I mean? How you learn shit in your sleep. Yeah. So you can just do 20 minutes and then go do something else and your mind is still like running in the background.
Yeah. I like that. That's less is more. I mean, especially, I don't know how old you are, but I'm like 43. And
I turn 45 next week, man.
See? Yeah. Congrats. Yeah. No, you're looking good. And
Thank you. You too.
But like just doing things, being easy on myself with everything, just trying to be like,
it's a marathon.
I'm going to do old people exercises.
It's too late for us to die young. Like we're in our 40s. We're not going to be, it's too late. To have the Kurt Cobain death. So it's like, you have to kind of build it in a way that can.
Yeah. What's the opposite of, what do you say? Burn out.
Fade away. Yeah, we're gonna fade away.
Fade away, dude. I'm fading away.
Hopefully, leave some cool artifacts.
I want to fade away with like a night, like a song that just fades out. Where you're like, oh man, it's gonna keep on going forever, but I don't get to hear it.
Yeah, studio fade.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's just making the same sound as a coffee maker.
Yeah. Do you ever do that in songs? Do a fade?
A studio fade? Yeah, I do. Like, I do a little bit of that. Yeah, that's complicated. Because what do
you think it's kind of a cop out, a fade?
No. Okay. No. I mean, if anything, I'd say the fade in is more suspicious because they fucked up the beginning of that. But fade out could be like, well, they went for 8 minutes, but it turns out we only needed 4. But lately, I've actually been inspired to. Just because you do things enough and it's like the tight ending and then there was the fade. Now I've been trying to deliberately cut songs off at a really abrupt place, like almost use more randomness because I kind of like it. Like some of like the SoundCloud rap stuff I heard, they would end it in the wrongest spot. And I started to like that. So lately I've been doing that.
The wrongest, that's the wrongest super ending. Wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like wrongest. So wrong, it's right.
It like breaks the rules of grammar. It's so wrong. It's wrongest. It like breaks the fourth wall into the grammar and the wrongness continues into the language.
But I also know
really
that
gets it across.
Like it's like if I fail, it doesn't matter. Like so, it's like I might as well attempt something. Like even a new failure. Failing in a new way is better than having a tight ending the way I've done it 1,000 times before. Like you do music long enough,
that's its own failure.
You're kind of like, what's left? What's the opposite of the way I've done it? It's almost like that's kind of how I'll be like, what should I do here? What's the opposite of the way I've always done it? So I don't become that old man who's like the same. That's my biggest fear is like becoming stuck in my ways and not growing as a thinker and as an artist.
That's good. I think I hear that's important for for our brain health.
Yeah, like Alzheimer's and shit. Yeah,
like brushing your teeth with your left hand if you're right-handed and like switching stuff up. I was practicing today for this gig I have tonight, like DJing, and I've been using these things called hot cues on this like. It's basically just like I can like start the song at any one of these hot cues and I use them to kind of like jump around, and so then I'll kind of like use those hot cues. I'll just play the hot cues like percussion and kind of like start it there, start it there, start it there, start it there, and then start cutting the time up and starting things on the end.
Each key is like a different song, or
each key is like a different beginning point in the same song. It's a cue in the song. So like one might be a chorus.
So you cue up like your favorite spots?
I'll find the spots. Yeah, like because there'll be what I'm starting to do now under my like new kind of like DJ ethos is
I like it. You have to keep evolving,
Yeah. Is I'm starting to just like get songs I like from anywhere.
Yeah.
Like Spotify, I'll like find, and then I bring those into Serato, and then I'll just be like, oh, this instrumental is beautiful. I'm gonna sing lyrics that I already wrote for another song and sing them over this instrumental.
Yeah.
And then chop up the instrumental a little bit and maybe do like a little bit of juggling and then move on to the next song. And then I'll stick one of my own instrumentals in there. But all the instrumentals I use for most of my music is like stuff that other people have made. I build stuff from the ground up sometimes as well, or I'll add layers on top of what other people have made. But like at this point, I'm just grabbing from wherever.
You find that right now, what excites you the most about this process is taking inputs from other places.
Whenever I hear it, it's like, ooh, that's it. Okay,
because you're still in control of like just mixing them up.
I mean, I mean, I still am putting my heart and soul into it, and I'm learning, and it's so I've been like DJing weddings for the past 3 years, and like speaking of A+, like I have to get an A+ every single wedding I DJ, you know, because it's not my wedding.
Yeah,
it's their wedding.
You can't take some crazy artistic
their
risks.
moment. Yeah, it's their moment. And I do. Yeah, I don't.
If we get divorced now, it's because you fucked up our music.
Because I messed up the music. Yeah, no, but it's given me the familiarity with the hardware to be like, what would I do if it was my wedding, or if it was my show, if it was my set? Like I would take more artistic risks,
right?
But the same work ethic, it's actually a lot of work to be a wedding DJ. It's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of work. And I take great pride in it. I love it. I actually really love that job. But now I'm kind of applying that same energy to like my own performance. I'm like, you know, I also play shows with my band, Secret B-Sides, but that's kind of more rare.
We'll put some links down there in the description.
Yeah. But speaking of the Secret B-Sides, and what we were talking about, that name, the Secret B-Sides, I think that
I love the name. I've always loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, that name was kind of like this idea, or an allusion to the idea that like there's just things you'll never know.
Yeah.
There's things you'll never know. Like there's unknown unknowns. There's what you know you don't know. I think Donald Rumsfeld said that. Like there's what you know you don't know, and then there's what you don't know you don't know.
Yeah.
And like that, there's actually there's this comic book that I read I think while I was in college called Logic Comics, and it's about this this point, like I think it was either right after World War I or right before World War I, or as it was starting to ramp up. But there was this it was in that time. There was this mathematician who found a mathematical way to say that not all answers can be found.
Yeah.
There's a set of unknown answers. There's a set of answers that will never be found.
It's like a proof that we'll not know everything ever.
There's proof that we cannot get that not all proofs will be known.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
that's some like meta shit.
at the bottom of math and logic, at the bottom there's like this drain that like it just everything in a sense goes back to zero. Maybe that's the zero infinity point, you know, of like there's just like we won't know all answers. Science will not solve every problem.
Yeah, for sure it won't. Yeah. And science is great and very important and very real, but also it's not everything. You can't work. Science will never be God. Like
science will never has to be the process of finding. It can never be like once we know everything, it's over. Science actually doesn't exist once you know everything. It's over. Yeah, there's nothing else to like figure out.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That could be cool.
That's when we divide by zero.
Might be, exactly. That could probably be cool. Maybe that's what the singularity is. Is like once we find a computer that does figure everything out. But then like that sounds terrible. That sounds
I know.
Terrifying. I don't want to be a part of it.
What's the human condition at that point? Like why would we?
Humans probably don't exist at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably good.
Probably. Yeah. Oh, yeah, like the organism that we were talking about. Yeah, the ants that are like eating all the pizza.
Yeah, I like that though. And I think like I hadn't thought about it, but Secret like B-Sides kind of reminds me of an artifact, you know? It's
exactly.
It's like a thing that would be left behind.
Yeah, that would be found and be like, oh wow, like this would have never been. No, or maybe it's something that only you know.
Yeah.
You know?
So how old were you when you like first started playing music? And like I know you're Secret B-Sides. I've heard you guys for like over a decade now. Yeah. So what's your kind of like, you know, the timeline for?
Let's see. So
have you always been guitar singer type?
No, I so when I was like 5 or 6, my dad would take me to choir practice at this church that we went to called Southside Presbyterian in Tucson, and that's where I'm from, Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, nice.
And I just got distracted because I remembered this time that I saw aliens in Tucson. We can talk about that later. Maybe
we could just do that instead if you want.
But anyway, so
the listeners,
or I don't know what it was. It was UFOs. It was a UFO. It could have been like government, or it could have just been the hallucination of a 6-year-old. I don't know. But anyways, so the whole alien thing happened after church one night. Mm-hmm. But first, I'll get back to that later. But so.
Like my dad foreshadowing that.
Yeah.
Stick around because there's going to be aliens later.
It's going to be an alien story. If you don't want to talk about choir practice, just wait. So my dad took me to choir practice every Sunday, So I just like, and there was this woman named Rosie, and she played the piano. She was the choir director. She's this really beautiful, super soulful, like old black lady that just like, so I think I got a lot of those like harmonies, like those church harmonies.
Yeah.
A lot of like sevens, you know, a lot of like that.
Major sevens or which sevens?
I think a lot of majors for sure at church.
Yeah.
A lot of majors and major sevens, and then a few minors in there. Yeah. But so that's that. I feel like that's probably like my like the richest like influx of just musical information and like
being that age too. You're such a sponge.
Yeah, like experience of like feeling how the chords feel in your body.
Yeah. How
the changes feel in your body. Like, I think that's where I got like a lot, like more than I even realized, like, of like information and kind of like education. And then, but I was always like a singer too. Like when I was little, I would always sing. My dad was a singer, and he would like make up songs, and then, you know, I'd be like secretly in my mind, like making a chorus to a song that he was like writing, you know, in the living room.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he is.
Nice.
So he was always just like super improv based and like
did he do like a jazz or a particular style, or
no, not a trained musician at all, very much like me. That's probably the reason why I had the guts to just be like, I'm just going to do this, because I saw my dad be like, to get to the point where a bunch of people are like, whoa, that's amazing, like you don't have to go through like formal training, you know?
It can even hinder you.
Yeah, sure. So like I always like had a good voice when I was little. Like I think, and my kids have really good voices. They have a really good sense of melodic memory, and like they can hear like a song in a movie like once and come out like singing it. As they get older, they're starting to lose that. You know, everything's getting replaced with like Taylor Swift lyrics and stuff. But like they have that ability. I think I had it when I was little. I had a very like musical mind, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Before you're filled up with like, you know, language and the shit you need to know to operate in the world. I think you can kind of take away from some of that magical.
Yeah, I think it gets a little loaded up. I think you get your RAM gets reduced because you have to like put more like random facts or whatever. Yeah. But eventually, I guess it was around like 11 years old, 12 years old when I started to when like Nirvana like kicked a hole in like all the hair band culture. I was into it. I was about that. And like, I was like, I want to be like Nirvana. I wanted to perform and smash guitars in front of like thousands of people, you know, like that's what made me. And then Smashing Pumpkins was my jam. Like I was like, oh man, this is, so that's what made me like pick up a guitar and be like, even though I'm going to suck at guitar for 2 years or whatever, 3 years, like, eventually I'll get to the point where I can smash my guitar, you know. But then once I started playing guitar, I really used it to like, I used singing, writing and singing songs to like, in a way kind of help me heal and change my trajectory from all the like heroin infused like alternative rock lyrics I had absorbed as a teenager. You know what I mean? Like I really
There's so much negativity in that
so
music.
Much like just negativity.
And the 90s were a time of like, don't be a poser and sell out. Like I'm still kind of shaking some of that like 90s, like it's cool to be, you know, like Kurt's shitting on Pearl Jam. All it's like, what did Eddie Vedder do to you, dude? Just
I know.
Nice.
I know. I fully healed at this point because now I'm like DJing Pitbull.
Okay. Yeah.
And like whatever, like all the wedding playlists are not what I was listening to like ever. It's like all the stuff I avoided my whole life.
But it was a great time, like just the energy behind grunge amazing. And like alternative music that we called it. Like it was a great time to be like, I could learn a few power chords and pick up a guitar, and my buddy's got some drums. Maybe it was like a great time to.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we sucked for like.
That's what exactly
5 years. It was like we
had no one. You sucked, right?
Yeah, but we loved it.
But
we loved
just kept
sucking.
Going.
And then when you're done sucking for that long, you come out with like a style that's different.
Yeah,
you know? It wasn't like YouTube videos and shit.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I felt. Was like at a certain point, I was like, I finally wrote a song I like, and yes, it does sound.
Were you like a teenager at this point?
Yeah.
Like,
I was like 14, maybe. 14 and 15 when I finally was like, wrote a song that I really like.
What was it called? Do you remember?
It was probably called like Sunrise or something like that. I forget. Over the horizon or something like that. I forget. Something comes over the horizon.
Do you still have like recordings and stuff from that era? I was
don't have those artifacts. I don't have those artifacts.
It was harder then.
Yeah,
cassette tapes and whatnot.
I should have, but
shoeboxes full of cassette tapes that I moved just enough times to lose forever.
Oh yeah, or like leave it in the garage and then like
melted.
It's or something happens, like damaged. Yeah, but yeah. So at certain point, I was like, I wrote a song that I liked. I liked playing. I guess the bars that I got. The energy that comes out of it is like worth the energy put in. Yeah. Dopamine effect is like happening. I'm getting like making my own internal drugs. I think that's basically the point at which I was like, okay, this is a good song. It sounds a lot like a Pearl Jam song, but
do you remember which Pearl Jam song?
Yeah, it was the one
Better Man.
No, but I loved that song.
Elderly Lady?
Oh, I loved that song. Yeah. But no, but it was it's that one.
Really?
One. Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Was it Time Hearts and Thoughts?
I've been on a Pearl Jam kick again because they're like the only band that still is like the Foos are like a different band. So like I want to go to like Wrigley Field and see Pearl Jam. Like that's part of my bucket list just because like it's not my favorite band, but
I bet Eddie Vedder's voice is exactly the same.
Yeah, and I was like asking my wife, I was like, you want to come? She's like, I don't want to go see
Pearl Jam. He sounded like an old man when he came out.
Yeah, fully formed, totally. He did. He really did. Yeah, some people are like that. So you got into like grunge stuff.
So that's what it was like. Grunge was what made me want to. It appealed to some part of my ego. Yeah, honestly, I was like, oh, I want to be like that.
How are you doing with that? Shedding the ego.
I'm
still working on that.
I mean,
I've come a long way.
I feel like my ego at this point has been like, I would say like in 2019, I was starting to feel like, wow, like this is just all this music thing is about is like propping up your ego and then smashing it and then propping it up and then smashing it and then propping it up and smashing it.
Is there value? You feel like each time you get you have to rebuild yourself from a smash. You're like, is it beating you down or is it actually like you're rebuilt?
I just feel like
better.
Yeah, it is better.
After each death,
you do get better because then the next time that the smash comes, it like really just smashes. Like, I mean, I think that was a time where I was like feeling it harder. Now I feel like I like you're saying, kind of like I like it. Like that's okay. There's a freedom. Yeah, there's a freedom to being like, especially after COVID, like. After the lockdowns and stuff, like if I was playing, before the lockdowns, I got to a point where I was like, dang, like there's 50 people here. Oh man, what an embarrassment, right? And then after COVID, I would be like, I am performing to another human being, one human being. Like this is sacred.
Yeah, this could go away at any time.
This could go away at any time. Yeah. Like. There were times when I was during lockdown where I was in my house by myself, and I remember I pick up my guitar and I was feeling pretty crappy at that time. It, like a lot of things zeroed out at that time for me, and I was feeling pretty crappy. I remember I picked up my guitar and I sang a song, and it was very much like on a blank slate of like, feeling either nothing or feeling bad. I played one song by myself, nobody else to hear me, and like I felt like 20-30% better, and I was like, whoa, that's powerful. Right. And then I valued it more, like, oh, if I'm performing to one person or two people or five people, like all of that is like that's my reason for being here.
And what a gift that you still have it, like after all these decades of doing music, that you can still play a song and get that like healing. It's like that's I mean, I'm seeing now that like music is for that. And it's also, if I look at my life and all my closest friends and shit, I've met them all through music, almost all of them. Met my wife through music, so it's also like community.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, the ego when you're young. I mean, I was took some time to a lot of deaths.
My ego would come out in spurts. I would hear myself say stuff where I was like, "That's what I'm talking about." Saying the wrong thing. Yeah, I can remember. One time, either I would get really one time. Did you ever know John Reed?
I mean, I know who he is. I never got to know him. Yeah, but he was around at the same time.
I had a show where I was opening for John Reed, and with the secret B-sides, and I got really mad at the audience for not dancing and for just not really being there for me, because that's like, I was like, but the thing was is they weren't. It's kind
of hard for me to imagine just your vibe.
Oh, well, that's the thing. That's the thing about me. That's the thing about me is that like I'm super chill, I'm super nice, I'm super this, I'm super that, I'm super reasonable. But then like I do have like
there's a line somewhere.
There's a line somewhere, and sometimes that line is in a place that makes sense, and sometimes that line is in a place that is more ego based.
What does it look like? Are you like actually yelling, or are you just like brooding silently? Like what is it?
Definitely, if you see me brooding, please check on me.
Yeah, inside there's
because
a storm.
That's probably before. No, but
there's still time if you're brooding.
Yes,
maybe we could like head that. Hey, he's brooding. Somebody should
let's go make a podcast.
Bring him a. yeah. I could bring my podcast over next time you're brooding.
Yeah, but like, what were we talking about? Ego.
You were opening up for.
So I was opening up for Jari, and I remember I was just so mad at everybody, and I was just like, because there was this moment where I
should have been dancing. Why weren't they dancing?
Yeah, but I think that I was just stressed in general in life. I was just like overwhelmed, and like being the front man. Sometimes, at least the way that I used to do my band,
I love being the drummer now.
It was not fun.
Yeah,
it was like I have to do and I brought this on myself fully 1000%. Like I put myself in charge of everything, and then at the end of the day, I'm like singing songs, and I'm not really like exuding the vibes that I really probably ought to be exuding, or the original intention of the whole thing is not in the building. God's not in the building.
It's hard though, because I think you got to treat it like a business. This comes up all the time on the pod, like sending out emails, getting booked. You have to treat it like a business, or you don't get the shows.
Yeah.
But then if you do that too much, then when you're trying to switch to like the feelings guy that leads the room, you're still kind of like business guy. You know what I mean?
When I checked in on my feelings, I wasn't feeling good.
Yeah.
Right.
And the audience is you're leading the feelings.
I was leading. And they were just all getting drunk and like not, and I was just kind of like, why? I was just like, I don't even remember. I was just like, I want 10 people to come. It was just like the worst. It was like the worst thing to be. I was bombing like.
Do we have
super
footage of this?
hard.
We can link in the description. It sounds good.
Probably not.
It's really hard to imagine.
Yeah, no, it was not good. I think when you see me flip out like that, it is hard to imagine, and it's probably scarier. It's probably scary in a way. So that was to my advantage in a way.
Yeah,
because then. But anyways, let's see. What's another time well, anyways, we'll eventually get to that. We can circle back to that and aliens.
It's a little bit like out of a story. It was like Pulp Fiction or something, where you start with your 5 or 6 teenage years, hop forward to just before the pandemic. Now they're back. Yeah, we're gonna hit the aliens.
No, yeah.
I mean,
so the aliens. Okay, so let's go forward from there.
Everyone watching is like, I thought there'd be aliens.
Yeah. So. Where were we? We were secret B-sides.
Filling in the gaps between writing that first song and
and then getting to the point where I'm here with you and that I had a band.
And I think there may have been some aliens. I think there were something.
Definitely some aliens. That's before and after. No, I haven't had. Okay, I'll just tell the alien story right now.
How many times?
I've had one alien experience.
Just one,
and it's really really cool.
Yeah.
So after choir practice one night, my dad and I and someone who we were giving a ride home. I think we were headed to this person's house, and we were on the freeway. And in Tucson, the freeway, I just remember when I was little, the freeway was very wide, and it felt like it was very high up in the air. Like, how they build them, like they'll be like up high over buildings and stuff. So you're like, kind of flying through like the low atmosphere on this surface.
It's like a big open sky out there too, right?
Sky, exactly. Big open sky above us, and then just like a 8-lane freeway. Asphalt below us, and that was kind of like my little microcosm as a 6-year-old inside the car.
Yeah,
and it was like curved. The freeway was curved, so it was like you couldn't even see over. Like it had its own little horizon of the freeway, and then you see the big horizon out past that. But we're going over this, this big kind of curve in the freeway, and then all the cars started to stop, like slow down and stop, and I remember that we were looking at other cars to be like, what's going on? Like, why are people stopping? Why are people slowing down? We're looking at other people, and we saw other people in their other cars looking up. So then we looked up. And as soon as I looked up, I saw kind of like what we're looking at in here, like these this long fluorescent square that was just lit up, but it was multiple of them. It was like hundreds of them.
Were they moving, or
maybe
they
were just kind of, I can't tell if they're moving. I think they were just kind of hovering, like floating. And there was end to end these big, long, rectangular light panels kind of in the sky.
And there's like other people. There's like other cars that people.
Everybody's stopped on the freeway. The freeway is stopped for no reason except because what's this thing that aliens. Yeah. Looking at aliens and being distracted by that. So I remember looking up. I remember everyone looking, and to me at that age, I remember the rectangles going on, like covering the whole from horizon to horizon, the whole sky, and then the next thing I remember is my dad talking about how on the news they said there was like it wasn't a weather balloon. It was a satellite that had broken up in the atmosphere. And I remember being a 6-year-old and just thinking, that doesn't make sense, dude. Yeah. That's not logical. Like space trash is what I saw was highly organized, and it just wasn't space trash. Yeah. I don't know. So maybe it was a satellite that had broken up in the atmosphere.
Space trash.
But it didn't look like space trash. Yeah. It looked like I don't know, just what
some crazy technology.
Yeah, it looked
like it was like behaving in intentional ways, not just like some debris falling.
Yeah. It didn't look. It didn't look like. Yeah. So, but the thing when I look back on that, I don't actually remember what happened after we looked up, because I should know. Like, did we eventually get bored and just drive home? Like, I don't remember.
Have you talked to your dad about it? Does he remember?
He describes it differently, and my dad is like, I don't actually trust my dad to recount things. Like, there's other less fantastical things that have happened, and I've seen him misrepresent that enough times, right? That I don't really trust my dad's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, reality is kind of a little bit like that with all of us.
But at the same time, it is like that for all of us.
If we just talked about like what we talked about here a year from now and it wasn't recorded, we probably would disagree.
Exactly.
But you're saying maybe it's like even more.
Personally, like it's if you're asking me, like, and I know that, I was 6 years old. Maybe I hallucinated the whole thing. Maybe it was a dream. I don't know. But my dad says there were triangles.
Man. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. My dad says they were triangles. I think they were rectangles. I don't think my dad remembers. I would trust a 6-year-old in that situation.
That's true. It's like what you're saying with your kids is they kind of still have like their consciousness in the void that we come out of or whatever.
Like they're not
adults are more compromised. They're like,
like we'll explain it into something else, whereas a kid might just see it for what it is.
Like there's this thing where it's like when you look around and you see like when you type something into Google, it's not actually searching the whole internet, it's searching a recording of the internet. It's not actually checking everything right now. So like when you look at a tree at this age, my brain goes, that's a tree, and I put a symbol of a tree up and I move on with my day. But if you're like,
you think lumber, or you think like maybe
you're thinking in symbols, you're not actually seeing like just how everything that we see is actually a new thing that's like unnameable. And when you're a kid, I think that's just kind of more how you see the world.
That, like when you're on mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I like this, like getting into headspaces like this or jamming, is I feel like that's a way to kind of get back to some of that. Mm-hmm. So long-winded way of saying, like, I think there is something to be said for like a kid. You could trust a kid more than a compromised grown-up.
Yeah.
Like if you pay your taxes, it's too late for you because you're like already.
Yeah, like you could trust a kid to be super creative and make stuff up too. But I think it's kind of like both. You can trust a kid to be more creative, and you can trust a kid to be more like able to see reality as well.
You think maybe they like wiped your memories a little bit or something? Like,
I feel like when I look back, I feel like, or maybe I passed out.
Yeah,
maybe that happened. Maybe I looked up and I was like, whoa, and I passed out, and then but then it just doesn't make sense. What happened? Everyone got bored looking at aliens and then went home, or the aliens flew away. Like, I don't know that part. That part's missing.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. Yeah,
and my dad says there were triangles, so I'm like, don't talk to me anymore. Like, you don't know.
If we don't agree on the shape, there's not really much else we can do here, my friend.
Exactly.
Which polygon do you think?
No, you don't know. But because I think he's mixing up two different things. There was a sighting of some giant triangles in the sky in Phoenix later. And that's documented. And I've gone back and tried to look for like, well, if so, the news said there was a satellite that broke up. Let me find that news. Yeah. It's harder to find, especially like television news, like it's harder. I should probably do that once. If I ever come across a big sum of money in the near future, I'm gonna go looking for that artifact of like proof that I saw something that night. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it's hard. There's not a lot of artifacts from those days.
I know.
Now it's like
it's like too many now.
Yeah, it's too many.
I wish
exactly.
there were fewer.
Yeah. It's like you actually make a good song and you're like put it on the internet, but everybody's like sandwiches from lunch or bumping into it.
And like, you know, it's like also like, for instance, like the like evidence of, you know, me acting a fool at a show like that day that I at Jari's show, I'm really glad that like nobody recorded that, or maybe they should have. Maybe it would be funny to me now. It probably would be healing to just see it.
Yeah, think of like you would have been fully canceled, and then you would have had to like, who knows who'd be sitting here now.
Yeah, they'd be canceled. Like, you're not as chill as you seem, Juan. But okay, so let's get back to the timeline we're going on. So I wrote a song that I liked when I was 14, and then and I was doing like grunge, but it ended up being more like Pearl Jam's, like, you know, more like mellow songs. Ended up becoming more my style.
I don't even think it's the same as Nirvana. Like, I think Pearl Jam always kind of was more of like there's a folky world music kind of element. I hate that term, world music, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
And like you said, Eddie was always old. He was always an old wise soul.
Yeah.
So it always kind of sounded like some old music.
He's like, he always sounded old. So then, but then like, I think everything in general, like the culture shifted. There was a time where like folk music, Americana, like Wilco, like
for sure
that became
the 2000s, like
the big thing.
Yeah,
at least for
white dudes in flannel shirts with beards, like acoustic guitars, like
for like white kids at colleges, like and that's pretty much like what the culture that I was in.
I went hard into like the alt country, even to the point when I came out of it, I was like, okay, I gotta like. There's a lot of music out there. This is like it was starting to become too much of like that, you know.
Yeah. So I was like always like into hip hop in the background.
Yeah.
But then what I would play would be more like that. Would be more like Ben Harper and more like folk and like Gillian Welch,
soul and stuff. Because your music has kind of some, you know.
Well, I got kind of into that
R&B
later
leanings.
Yeah, I got kind of like into that later in terms of, because it was like there came a point where what I was playing and what I was listening to were two different things.
Yeah, I think
what
that's
I was
great.
playing.
That's great.
I know,
because then you're getting influenced by what you're doing. Like the worst thing you could do is like be in an alt country band and just listen to alt country, because you're gonna be copy. You know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like mad cow disease. Like eventually, it's just like you're eating.
Yeah. So if you're like in a grunge band in the '90s, if I had it to do over again, I would like only listen to TLC. You know what I mean? Because then when I pick up the guitar, it's going to be like just some weird new thing. You know, you want to listen to one thing, play another.
But at a certain point, like I was just like, why am I playing this music? Well, I went on tour with my friends. My friends and I, we made our own little, like, I don't know if you ever did this, but there was a certain point where everyone was just like starting their own record label.
2000s, like
fake. Yeah, everyone's got a fake record
like
label
MySpace
that you book
days.
under. Yeah, you book under like the fake record label email, and then it's like it's just both you're singing the songs and booking the shows and pretending to be like your own manager. So like my friends and I, exactly. So my friends and I kind of like made that a little more legit, and we actually got somebody who was like our manager. She really like sang harmonies, and like she drove the tour Forester.
Yeah, this is a pro level.
Like I felt like such a rock star, because I could literally just like sit in the car and like show up at the show, because there was somebody driving us. It was our friend Jenny, who's like,
I never got a driver.
She's the best. She's the best. But you know, that could only last so long until Jenny had to move on and do other stuff. But we went on this tour. And like I don't know. I just got the sense of like, wow, I've written a lot of. It was a successful tour. Like we did it 2 years. We did it 3 years in a row. The first year we pretty much broke even. The second year we all walked away with like $200. The third year was probably going to be the best, but it kind of all derailed eventually. But in the process of that, I realized, like the second year we toured, I was like, man, I am like playing all these really great, sad Americana songs, and I'm just like bumming these crowds out.
That's why I do comedy now. This is why I switched.
Yeah. Okay. And so then at a certain point I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I want to make more of the music that
How old are you at this point? You're in your 20s?
I was like 25, maybe.
That's a good age for it. You're like a teenager. Like, I think it's kind of cool to be a pissed off teenager or sad.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's like nobody wants to hear a dad in their 40s up there. Like, oh, they don't want. I don't need to be.
Yeah.
It's like so negative now. You know? Is that kind of what you mean? Like, I look back and I'm like, I would just be like, hey, everybody, come to my show, and then I'd get up and I would either be like sad or I'd be like angry, and I'm like, now I'm like,
so y'all ready to be sad?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Like, why? What occurred? I guess I just liked that music so much when you're young, but
it just inevitably ran its course to the point where it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
well, that's a good way to do it, because then you're really done with it, right? And you can be like, all right. Like, is that when you started? Because the Secret B-sides.
Then I started saying, I want to make R&B. You know, there were these songs that I had written that were joke songs that were like Flight of the Conchord, like joke songs. And then I was like, this shit feels more serious.
Yeah.
If I'm, this feels more real to me than, like, this is more authentic playing this joke song.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Than playing this sad song that I don't even connect with anymore.
Is that like shaking off the 90s? You think a little bit of it?
Yes, another deeper layer.
Cynical,
the final blow.
Like we were like, I didn't even, how the fish don't know about the water. They're just in it. And I feel like in the 90s when I started music, I didn't know I was in this sea of cynicism and don't be a poser.
Yeah.
Which is like,
and like being happy is being fake.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be like successful. That would be selling out. Like, I don't think kids today give a shit. They're like, why wouldn't you get fans? And
they're like, dude, bro, do it. Cook. Like, what are you doing? Why don't you get on SoundCloud? Like, you could be famous. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And this came up with when Seth was on too. He was talking about how the times now, like, it used to be like, are you doing a joke, ironic song, or are you doing a real song? But now it's like, it's just all. There is no difference anymore. There's like, in the same song you can be like cheesy and heartfelt, and it's like that the time of the 90s is so gone that it's like we kind of want. I like what you said where it's like being silly and cheesy is almost more. It is more real. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, because I feel like if you can take people to that place and they take you seriously, it's like, whoa. Like I think one of the best examples of that, at least
take you seriously, like when you're being goofy.
When you're being a little goofy, they take you seriously.
That's a great paradox in
like,
itself. Ooh. Like when people take you seriously when you're not being serious, then you're dividing by zero.
Yeah, that's probably it. I feel like Andre 3000 when Outkast put out A Love Below and Speaker Box, I feel like that was this moment where like Andre 3000 was being like really cheesy and over the top, yet somehow it also was like serious and kind of beautiful and kind of like, like I remember a lot of musicians were like, oh, this is like, there's like legit, like there's like jazz going on in this album for real. And I know that Andre pretty much like outsourced most of that, but like just presenting it all together as a package and as a vision, like that made me that's why Secret B-Sides was like, okay, the point is not the point. If you just go for where you were headed and you don't, then that's all you get. But if you somehow make a way for like partway through the process for other things to come in and kind of like blur that original vision, then like you end up finding something else. And so like taking myself less seriously was important. And like I would, so Secret B-Sides, like I wrote like joke songs, like sexy joke songs, and then also like put in there like I liked the Flaming Lips a lot at that point, and just how, especially when they had with the Pink Yoshimi album, it was like I was like, oh, because they always made weird music and had weird lyrics, but like that album was one of the ones where they were weird by being super deep and spiritual, and it was like, whoa, that's true. Like
you can do this, like eating lots of vitamins. Ha ha! You're just like, this is okay. You're allowed to be this goofy and little kid.
Yet at the same time, it's like profound. I feel for her. She's like fighting robots, and like, and also when he's like, do you realize everyone someday will die? Like, not only is that a deep,
one of the heaviest hitting songs.
A weird thought.
Yeah.
It's like that's a weird thought. Like that's a weird thought. Like there's like this overlap between like trippy stuff and deep spiritual stuff, which I didn't really. Now I know that that's like a long tradition. But like I didn't know that at the time.
If you don't, we're not really raised with that. It's like psychedelics is like bad.
Yeah, it's
Charles
bad.
Manson's bad,
Yeah.
and then it's like no, actually, it's
Charles Manson. He's pretty bad. He's pretty bad.
Yeah, he is bad. But I mean, like, what I mean is like he was the face that they could put up, and like if you do psychedelics, you're going to be like this, and it's all bad, and now we need to make it. So I mean,
Charles Manson is when the government starts
doing.
doing stuff with drugs.
Yeah.
That's when you get Charles
I
Manson.
want to just go on the record on this podcast. We do not support Charles Manson.
No.
But oh man, there's something else in there. Yeah, that Flaming Lips line. What is it? Everyone you know someday will die. It's like I love that line because it's like it's one of those contradictory things where you could read. It could be the most cynical, sad thing to say, or it could be the most like, and we better enjoy today together because we're here. It's like the most. It's both. It's both extremes, and that's like with music and songs and comedy, you can do two opposite things at the same time.
Yeah,
and instead of being like, whose side are you on? Which thing are you trying to say?
What time is it? Are we almost done?
Yeah, we should wrap up soon. We're at like almost an hour and a half. Yeah. I've had to pee for quite some time, so I'll have to wrap up in the near future.
So I covered it. Talked about aliens. Talked about ego.
Yeah. I mean, we're obviously could just still go for, I think we just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
I feel like we could go for hours. You want to come back on again sometime?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Yeah. For sure. I need to like have more life experiences though now because I feel like it really unloaded.
No. I think that, I think it's...
I'll come back in like 20 years.
20 years? Do you have any plans like with the band or like...
we're playing AVL Fest.
Okay, nice.
And, I had 2 band members pass away, like one in 2017 and one in 2019. Jeff and Robin respectively.
Yeah.
And
I knew Jeff a little, but not well.
Did you record with him?
No, I worked at Moog, and I just remember like he was just kind of around. This was like in the 2000s. And I remember just knowing he was always real nice.
Yeah, I miss Jeff.
Collapsible, and then hear him when he passed and just be like, damn, that sucks.
I miss him, man. I miss him a lot. And he's like one of those people that like some of the music I make now, the reason why I make the recordings, the songs really short is partly because of Jeff, because when he died, it was like he died and I had missed him while he was alive and then he died. And it's like...
You said it one more time?
I missed him while he was alive.
Huh.
And then he died.
What do you mean you missed him while he was alive?
Like, I felt like I wanted to get closer to him. I felt like there was more relationship to have with Jeff. And I just felt like there was something missing, and then he died. There was no chance to and unless there's like in the future there's gonna be some spiritual realm where these things can be healed or whatever. But it just made me realize you think like they say you think you have more time. Whatever that quote is. The problem is you think you have more time. Yeah. And so I've been making songs where it's like it's so short, and then it's over. And I'm just like, can I make it happen within this span of 45 seconds?
Oh, 45 seconds. Okay.
Like a punk song, you know what I mean? But I'm not. But I'm making a different genre. Yeah. But I'm still like, can I make the full thing happen in here?
And compress it, and
it be right, and it not be like I'm not forcing it.
It's almost like poetry at that point because you have to shave off everything extraneous. You're like, it can only have what it needs. I always like that, like brevity.
And does it have parts? Does it have an intro? Does it have a middle? Does it feel resolved? Even though you're like, oh man, I didn't want that to end. And then part of that is I'm like, well, the good thing is you can always I'm gonna like that particular song I'm talking about. There's one song in particular that's really short. Yeah, well, you can always loop it. Yeah, and I'm gonna make it so that when I release it, if you put it on repeat, it's a loop. It's not. It won't be like a disjointed.
The end will snip to the. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So, but that's kind of like one of the things I've been, doing is making shorter music, and partly also because like the way that COVID happened, it's like you're living your life, boop, doop, doop, and then bam, something happens, and like you realize like, oh, I wasted a lot of time, and like it's just like making music that reflects that sense of like. It's over before you know it. Yeah. And that's just the reality. That's like, because especially getting older too. Yeah. Like I'm just like,
you can see the
I have to I have to like just really be in this moment and like and also let it go when stuff ends. Let it go quicker.
Yeah, that's a big like theme for this podcast is there is no next thing. Like a lot of the comedians that come on are in their 20s and they're like, well, then I'm going to get this show and then I'm going to tour. And then I'm like, well, good luck. And that's great. And I love that served me well. But it's like, for me, there is no next thing. Like this conversation this year, these shit, like this is what it is, you know? So I'm just trying to enjoy it. Yeah. And I've been having more fun doing art this way than ever before.
Yeah.
I was actually quite miserable all through my 20s, just trying to be like, when am I going to get
big?
Yeah.
I know exactly.
It's
so exhausting. But the thing is part of that also is what drives you to be good.
Yeah. It served me at that time. The competitiveness and all that did make me like do a lot of things. But now I have like a very opposite. Just being a dad, you know, you just know like it's not about me, you know? Mm-hmm. So and that feels good, you know? I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's still my giant ego up there.
Yeah.
Telling jokes.
But at this point, it's funny. Like, at this point, it's like, at this point, I'm like, I'm going to bring my giant ego to this performance. Yeah. But the difference is like, the thing that balances out a giant ego, I think, is just a bunch of practice. Like, doing the back end stuff as well, because then it's like it's not at that point it's grounded. That grounds it. The ego part is just more of just to help me have some swag, help me have some flair.
Yeah.
But it's more of a joke.
You
know? And like the thing is after your ego is destroyed, it'll still be there.
Yeah.
And that's what the ego. Once you learn that, I feel like then it's like okay, then I don't know. It just makes everything more enjoyable. I think for sure. It allows things to be more enjoyable. And I know you got to pee, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, Juan Holladay, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to finally talk with you for a while. I'm a fan of your music. Bye-bye.